Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, and hopefully throughout the next couple of events that we have planned throughout Indie Beer Week 2. Absolutely fantastic seeing so many heads join us here today. Loads of familiar faces and names I can see popping in, and some new heads too, which is absolutely brilliant. Delighted to have you. Just to say off the bat, massive thank you to everyone for picking up a beer box or buying a ticket to join in today. Ultimately for your support of independent Irish breweries, not just this evening or this week, but just like throughout the entire year, throughout your entire life. As the old saying goes, use them or lose them. So I think we said it in the mail that went out yesterday, but the impact of your support cannot be overstated. So thank you so much. A bit on Indie Beer Week itself. The reason for it, I guess, it's an occasion, obviously, to celebrate independent Irish beer all around the country, come together, have some events on, and celebrate the fantastic beers and fantastic facilities I think that Irish breweries have around the country. I suppose while this year is a little bit different, it's absolutely brilliant that we're able to celebrate it, and we're still going to have a whole lot of fun. Of course, on the plus side, we don't have to pay for a taxi home, and you don't even have to put on pants if you don't want to. Just make sure the camera's up waist high, please. Yeah, absolute delighted, pleasure, privilege, honor to be hosting. Thank you so much to guys in the ICBI, Elizabeth, all the brewers for asking me. True privilege and honor. But as you can see, everything Indie Beer Week, like I suppose the independent beer community or in Ireland, it's very much a collaborative effort. A huge amount of working on behind the scenes. ICBI, Beer Cloud, Liam's getting all the beers out to everyone. So it's yeah, absolutely fantastic occasion, I think. Okay, right, I'll try and stop yapping. Overview of the event. So tonight we're going to be sampling 6 fantastic beers from breweries around the country. The overview, we're going to be spending about 20 minutes per beer, tasting and chatting with each brewery. That pace is entirely to keep things on track, keep things running smoothly. It's entirely up to yourself what beers you'd like to try within the time. If you want to try them all, please do. Whatever you do, just please enjoy them responsibly. Bit of water on the side, a few snacks, and a partner to split them with too is very welcome. Zoom in general, I think everyone's pretty much familiar with it now, but yeah, you can change the views, you can have active speaker mode, or you can have the floating heads mode, whatever you'd like to do. The chat box is the most important thing here by a mile. It's fantastic when people when it starts to take off. People are chatting, interacting, posting comments and questions and everything. So please feel free to get involved. Have the chat going. We'll try to get it going from the start. It's usually around beer 3, beer 4 when it really starts to take off, but we'll try to get it going from beer 1 and see what we can do. And finally then, yeah, as we wrap up around 10 o'clock, we're going to open up the chat for everyone to get involved. They can pop on their microphones. We'll finish our beers and have a bit of a chat off the record, we'll say. Yeah, okay, that's it from me. If I haven't put everyone to sleep already, I think it's time to get started. Rick, we're going to go over to you. This is everyone's cue to get their Deel lager if they haven't done so. Open it up, crack it, get it into a glass. And while they're doing that, Rick, why don't you say a quick hello and introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Brian. First off, I'd just like to say, thanks to you, to Elizabeth and Vaughn from the ICBI for all the work that you guys have put in to kind of get Indie Beer Week up and running this week. As a I suppose one of the independent brewers of Ireland, look, the past year, the pandemic has been tough for everybody, and we've seen just a huge amount of support coming from the beer community. So I to thank everybody for a long, hard year, but a very kind of, I suppose, positive support that we've seen back to the community. It's meant an awful lot to us. Yeah, for people who don't know me, my it's Rick Levert. I'm, I suppose, one of the main people behind Kinnegar Brewing. Kinnegar is based in Donegal. We started about 2012, 2013. Originally in a very, very small brewery, about 100 meters from where I'm sitting right now. We kind of outgrew that by about 2017 and moved into a new brewery in Letterkenny, just outside Letterkenny. We've been there since then. So we're going on about 10 years, just short of 10 years. Depending on where you count the start date, Libby and I have a little bit of a disagreement about when we actually started. It's turning into a bit of an internal joke here. But we are kind of discussing some tentative plans to actually celebrate our 10th come October time this year. So yeah, the beer that we have tonight is Deel, named obviously very fondly after the Donegal Reg plate. We felt that it suited the naming for a lager. coming from Donegal. I suppose this is like, Libby sent out a tweet, or I think earlier today, a post kind of ribbing me, give it a bit of a joke about, this is what I tend to do on a Thursday night anyway at this time, is actually sit down and open up DL. But she's not entirely incorrect. I do, I'm getting a bit older, can't drink as much as I used to. So, I take a few days off each week, and then come Thursday, I feel that I've earned a beer, and I do tend to actually then start, the evening with a DL. It's the reason for that is it's just it's what we call a light lager. It's only 4.5%. I suppose its closest stylistic cousin would be a southern German Helles. So it's designed in a sense after a Helles, kind of a much lighter hop profile than say a Pilsner would have, and it's really intended as just a simple, easy drinking kind of a classical style. And it's a beer that we started making it, I think, about a year and a half ago, not quite 2 years ago. So it's a relative newcomer to our product palette, but it is one that I've actually grown very fond of myself. If it's a big night for me, I start with the DL and I follow it with a Scraggy Bay, and then I finish it off with a black bucket at the end. That's about what I can handle these days.
Nice. That sounds like a nice little evening, I have to say.
Yeah, it's not a bad one.
Yeah. So DL, like many people here today, I'd imagine, day of work, finished up, first beer of the evening, as you said yourself, Rick. This is absolutely fantastic. It's going down far too easily, far too nicely, but it's absolutely beautiful beer. I suppose the style itself, lagers, obviously there's lagers and ales. What would be the main difference between the two?
Well, the big difference between a lager and an ale is obviously in the fermentation. So, kind of a split in the the family tree of yeast strains. So, a lager yeast is fermenting at a lower, a colder temperature than an ale yeast, and what you tend to get then is, you think of warmer temperatures, think warm, think more flavor. Think cold, think kind of maybe more neutral flavors or crisper, kind of cleaner flavors. And so the whole thing about a lager is that it tends to be, that cleaner, crisper, kind of flavor profile that we've all become quite used to. And if you think about the whole kind of, I suppose the generation of the craft beer industry, kind of going back, to the, I suppose the early, the early to mid 80s in the States. A lot of it in a sense was kind of like a response to, kind of commercial lagers. It was a return to ales, so to speak. It was people deciding that, the product offer that was out there just didn't really kind of quite, meet the diversity and flavors that they were looking for. And unfortunately then, that was great. That developed the entire industry. And that, you saw years of where it was kind of like, many, especially in the States, it was kind of like beer on steroids. It was, the ABV levels kept climbing, and, the flavors kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And, in that development, I think lager kind of got lost. Lager was kind of like, well, that's not the type of beer that craft breweries make. They were looking for bigger, bolder, brasher things. There's probably also a commercial thing to that too. We can't produce a lager and sell it at the price point that a big commercial brewery can do that. But for me, lager is still, it's day in, day out. It's the most difficult style to make well. It's really, really difficult to make good lagers. And there is an old adage, I suppose, in the brewing world, is if you want to know whether a brewery can make good beer or not, the first thing you do is you drink their lager. And if the lager is good, then you can kind of go, okay, this is we're off to a good start here. There's a good foundation for what we're going to be trying. And so I think it is kind of a style that we, as so-called, craft brewers, we've neglected it, and it's become kind of, it's become, was poo-pooed and kind of pushed off to the side for quite a long time. And I think that people kind of tend to not really kind of think of it as being, a style of beer that can have a bit of diversity to it as well. That there are different possibilities of what you can do with lagers. So it's a style that is quite dear to our hearts, and it's something that we do take a certain amount of pride in. If we can produce a good lager, we're quite we're quite happy with that.
Yeah, absolutely. You said it's very, very difficult to brew a lager. I think you've achieved making it look quite easy, to be honest. This is absolutely stunning. I'm really, really enjoying it here. I'll ask everyone in the audience here to pop in the comments how they're finding it, they enjoying it.
If there's any questions out there, fire them in. I'll see if there's any, I can answer whatever I can answer.
Yeah, they'll start flooding in soon. Don't worry. So the story of the brewery itself, Rick, where did the spark come from, or where did the desire to open a brewery come from?
That's one of those questions that we can never really answer all that accurately, just because there was no epiphany moment, there was no kind of watershed moment where you kind of said like, okay, that's it, we're opening a brewery. We just gradually became more and more interested and drawn in more and more. And, at some point, there was probably, a little bit of a flight of fancy, and like, maybe this is something that one could do. And it is quite literally, a case of, being in the midst of planning a small brewery before you even knew it. So, there wasn't any kind of moment where that I can remember where we said, oh, that's it, we're going to do this now, we're going to become brewers. My background is quite mixed. I would definitely kind of call myself a jack of all trades. I've worked in a good few different industries. Most recently, together with Libby, we ran a design business for quite a long time. But that's kind of, there's several different kind of steps in between, and maybe that kind of bit of a jack of all trade things is made brewing not made it a somewhat suitable kind of area for me, because brewing requires there's a lot of different things that come to play from the business side, from engineering, from what I would call cooking. You basically be flavors, understanding how they come together, understanding how heat kind of impacts it. Also kind of, you're looking at biochemistry. There's a huge array of different things that come in there, and I would understand a bit from each, but I'm not an expert in any, is the way I would describe it.
Okay, very good. Well, you've managed to pull together an exceptional brewery anyway, so yeah, you're not doing too bad. The comments here are fantastic. I don't know if you've seen them coming in. So Donald's saying Deel, light, crisp, light, clean, crisp, nice. Richard put it very well, said lovely and crisp for sure. A great start to ending a week. I think that's a nice way of putting it. And Niamh said the lager's lovely with the Artsala soft goat's cheese and the Dungarvan Brie style cheese as well. So they have nice pairings there.
Oh, sure. She's got to rub our noses in it now, because I don't have those cheeses here at the
moment. David was asking, how long do you lager it for?
About 6 weeks.
Okay, very good. Nice. And what would the lagering process for the beer achieve?
If you're fermenting at colder temperatures, it's the same way. If you've got warmer temperatures, the process, basically it progresses more quickly. Colder temperatures, it's a slower process. And so, if you don't let it lager long enough, or you're going to end up with off flavors. So you're not letting the yeast basically clean up off flavors that it produces in primary fermentation. So very often, if you try to take shortcuts or arrest the process, you're going to end up with off flavors that you'll notice in the beer. I don't know how true this is, but it's one of the things that I spent quite a lot of time with, we have a friend in Munich and spent quite a lot of time there. And, people in Munich will say that, for example, if they're drinking Augustiner, the classic Helles, they would also kind of typically, condition it, lager it for about 6 weeks. But, coming up towards, in the middle of summer and kind of heading towards, Oktoberfest, they come under a huge amount of pressure to kind of push beer through the system. And, whether this is true or not, who knows, but it makes for kind of an interesting story, is that they have to then cut the lagering time from 6 to 4 weeks. And supposedly, the hardcore kind of, Augustiner drinkers in Munich can notice it, will notice it. It's like, Oktoberfest is coming and they're not lagering the beer as long as they normally do. So you just think of it as basically it's a cleaning up process, and it's quite important in that style of beer, to keep it as. That's the whole thing about the, if you're making a lager, if you've got any kind of if you've made any kind of a mistake, the really, really light, crisp flavor profile just leaves you nowhere to hide. It's an off flavor is quite apparent. It's right in your face, and that's why it's so difficult to do.
Sure. Yeah. Question from Thomas here, or comment actually, said Deel would make a perfect accompaniment to a toasted sandwich and arguing about Thierry Henry, which is a nice way of putting it, because it kind of leads me into my next question I was going to ask. Not so much a question. This will be absolutely phenomenal on draft in a beer garden or in a pub or wherever. As hospitality starts to open back up slowly now, will there be plans to have many kegs of it floating around?
It'll definitely pour in a good few places in Donegal. It's actually you can already get takeaway pints of it. I don't know whether that's allowed yet, but you can get takeaway pints of it already in Donegal.
I think it's allowed.
Yeah. And it's drinking quite nicely. It's not one that we typically kind of, you'll see, across the country on draft. And again, the problem with that is, it's that same old thing. If you're going into, particular types of pubs and saying, look, we want to put a craft lager on draft, it's a very difficult sell, actually. It doesn't matter how nice or how good the beer is. It's whether or not there's an audience there for it. And we still, there's really some super lagers that will, out of Germany, really, really well made beers, which we just simply can't compete with on a price level. So even if you've got good craft beer bars, they need to also kind of make sure they're getting a particular margin, and they might have they'll have a lager there, but they're going to get a much better margin on a German lager than they'll get with our beer, unfortunately. So it's difficult. It's a tough one.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of nice though, even it ties into the name of DL and the license plate, if it is only available on tap around the Donegal area too, kind of like a home beer.
Yeah, and that was actually the way it was conceived. It was thought of that. It was something we thought, I mean, even the taste profile up here, Donegal is definitely what it is a, the flavor profile of most beer drinkers definitely runs towards lagers. And so we thought, and it runs towards light lagers. So we thought, well, we would do this as a, initially as a local product, something that was really only intended for the, the Donegal market.
Okay, sure. Very good. We're going to start to look at plans coming down the line. I have a double barrel question from Nina regarding two beers. They've asked, do you think Humpelnest Pilsner will make a comeback anytime soon?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because this is why we were discussing this internally last week. I really like DL, but I'm also, it's it's funny because when we've had German people come into the brewery, and German people will pick up like the different hopping levels of every style of lager. It's unbelievable how they're so sensitive to the what we would kind of perceive as being kind of minimal changes in a lagering in a hopping kind of profile of a lager. They pick it up immediately, and it is something where I've become maybe as part of my job, I'm much more attuned to it. And there are times when I say, geez, I really would like a really nice Pilsner tonight. It's just that little bit of extra bitterness that comes from it. It's got a little bit more bite to it. And I would certainly like to see a Pilsner come back into our portfolio, but I'm not sure when it will be. And I'm not sure whether it'll be Kumpelnest. It might be a different Pilsner. So
okay,
that's about the best I can answer that one.
Okay, interesting. And then same question about Shuttle Bucket.
Yeah, Shuttle Bucket. I'd say Shuttle Bucket is going to remain. I have to be careful here because I know that Libby's listening in. Shuttle Bucket is going to, as far as I know, is going to remain a once a year beer at the moment.
Okay, well, that means it's coming back if it's a once a year.
It definitely will be back, but I wouldn't expect it before next March.
Okay, well, that's something to look forward to.
Yeah.
So okay, we'll go for a final question from Dave here. He said, as you said earlier, lager is one of the trickier beers to market, considering the big players and how much they can make and at large volumes. Do Irish craft brewers have to adapt or progress lager in some direction to separate themselves from the bigger players in the future, in your opinion?
That's a very complicated question. I don't think that any of any of the breweries that you're going to see over the next 3 days, in the Indie Beer Week format, I don't think any of us are going to survive on the basis of producing a lager. The lager is always something that if we're making it, it's something that we're making it because possibly because we like the style ourselves, or there might be kind of a small kind of niche interest in it. But I don't believe it's not the beer style which is going to keep our the independent breweries of Ireland alive. And it's just kind of, it's the same thing. Like, I know that when we started out, we had no desire or intention to kind of try and reproduce a Guinness style stout, or a commercial style lager, because it just would make no sense. There's one can like or dislike some of those products, but they have their place in the market, and we're not trying to compete with that. We're doing something different. I'd say that for us, the lager style is always going to remain something that we do and something that we love doing, but it's never going to be the main driver of the brewery, if you know what I mean. It'd be nice to kind of keep, like I'll recommend to anybody out there who's interested in lagers is they take a trip to a small Bavarian town called Bamberg. Many people might know it from smoked beer. It's the home of Schlenkerla, the Rauch beer, but it's also home to a few small, excellent kind of lager breweries. Marsbräu, Käsemann, and you can kind of see there's quite a bit of variety in what you can do, with a lager. Marsbräu is renowned for, basically a naturally carbonated, which Deel is actually, by the way, as well. It's naturally carbonated cask lager. It's beautiful. It's a really, really nice beer, and that's something that most people would never have experienced, and it's worth it. But I don't see breweries like ourselves. It's not what will kind of keep us alive, producing lagers.
Sure. I saw a lot of ears prick up there about naturally carbonated cask lager. That's so I'd say there's a lot of interest there. Sounds incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty. It's called it's their ungespundetes. So it's it's basically it's naturally carbonated, and they basically put a big cask up on the bar and tap it every evening, and it's just an absolutely delightful beer. And the natural carbonation, I think gives it just a different mouthfeel. It's a different kind of the bubble's smaller. The bubble is nicer. It's not a big rough bubble. It's a nice soft, gentle bubble that comes through it. It's quite nice.
Sure, amazing. I think I saw a comment actually asking you about the carbonation in this beer earlier as well. So that's a great answer. Rick, I'm keeping one eye on the clock here.
Yep, no problem.
I think we might be time to move on. Just before we do, just wanted to say a massive thank you for joining in, obviously, for doing what you do, for creating absolutely incredible beers, which are enjoyed by everyone all over the country and beyond. You've obviously a fantastic reputation for being one of the top breweries in Ireland and consistently making incredible beers according to whatever the style that it may be. So thanks a million. Keep going, and
Well, thanks for having us on tonight, and thanks for all the support. And here's the Indie Beer Week, and I think it'll be a good weekend. So enjoy, everybody.
Absolutely. Thanks a million, Rick.
Have a good night.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Final comments for Rick there and the DL Lager in the chat box there, please, folks. See how you're getting on with it. While we're doing that, I'm going to invite in Claire and Tom. Let me see now. Ask you to come in.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello. How are you?
Hi.
How are you doing?
Not too bad. Tom was I was the one signed up for this just to fill everyone in. Tom is here by default because, much like Rick, he's in his normal Thursday night spot with a can of Hell Beginning Sandwiches. So. So I said, you're sitting next to me, you're doing it as well. Come on.
Sensing a theme here. So folks, obviously now is your cue. If you're getting your Helvet Gold, crack it open, pour it, start getting acquainted with it. And while you're doing that, I'll ask Claire and Tom to, I suppose, introduce themselves and also Dungarvan.
Sure. Well, I'm Claire and he's Tom. We're two of the four, I suppose, who started Dungarvan. So we're the married two. The other fellow's my brother. There sometimes can be confusion over which is which. Tom and I and Cormac and his wife Jen, the four of us started off together back. We launched in 2010, so we've just passed our 11th birthday. And we have a date that we count from, like Rick. So so the four of us started off. Cormac kind of took care of the brewing side of things, and between us all, we all had different roles to play. And the beer we're opening, Helvet Gold, was one of our original three that we started with. So we're going with one of our oldies rather than a newbie, but in new format for us in the can. So we start off our kind of whole ethos, I guess, was bottle conditioned beer. So we from day one bottled our beer, which way back then was actually quite unusual. Most people kind of started in kegging and then looked towards bottling or whatever, whereas we were bottled first and the bottle conditioning process. So we're much later to the game in cans, kind of for that reason, that we sort of had to look at the process and that sort of side of it. But that's sort of who we are in a nutshell, where we come from. Thanks, Dave. David just put a nice comment there about the branding.
Yeah, the branding on the cans is absolutely stunning, I have to say. It's they're looking fantastic. So kudos to whoever was behind that.
Well, we're thrilled with it, actually. We went to the same designers who did our bottle branding way back. So we had a vague idea. We knew we wanted a slick, kind of pared back version, but using elements of our existing. We didn't want to tear it all up and start again. We wanted something that would sit with the bottle, and bring in elements, but be a kind of wholly different look. So I think that was basically the brief given. And we were not expecting what we got back at all, but it was absolutely what we asked for, if you know what I mean. So yeah, we're delighted with it. And they just really kind of understood. They did our bottle branding in 2012. We did a rebrand in 2012, I think. So, they just really kind of understood us and our brand and knew where it should be. Got the guts of 10 years later or whatever, so really pleased with how it turned out. Yeah.
So the beer style itself, Irish Blonde Ale, what are we drinking at the moment?
jump in anytime there. So it's blonde ale. It's I suppose it's sort of. I mean, we put for the first time a kind of a bitterness or a tasting scale thing on this. So we put this midway. I'd say it's it's not an IPA. It's not, but it's got a little hop kick to it. All right. It's got a few different hops in it, but the dominant kind of flavor profile hop is Cascade in it. So you're getting all that really citrusy, piney kind of flavors that are, what you get from Cascade, I suppose, those kind of classic flavors. So it's like there's a nice bit of bitterness to it, nice bit of bite to it. But yeah, it's not up there like an IPA level hoppiness or bitterness or anything. But yeah.
Absolutely. I have to say, when I cracked open the can, the smell that came out straight away was phenomenal. And it wouldn't be something I would normally associate with kind of like a blonde ale, I suppose. So kudos, I guess. It's gorgeous. Lovely stuff. So the style itself then, what kind of tasting notes should we be getting as we're having sips?
I'm gonna actually take a sip while I'm doing it. Instead of talking about it. So yeah, as I was saying, like it's those hop flavors coming through as the kind of classic citrusy, piney flavors. But I mean, there is a kind of good malt backbone to it as well. So you are getting that kind of light biscuity maltiness to it as well. But they're the sort of the general kind of flavors to it. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah. I'll ask people to let us know how they're getting on with it in the comments here. Mine is going down very, very well. I want to go back to a comment I saw from Dave at the very start there. He said, I used to love getting casks of Helvet Gold into the Bull and Castle back in the day.
You recognise this man, Dave? That was his job.
Hi, Dave.
Yeah, because we bottle conditioned from the get-go, I suppose the draft equivalent of that is cask. So we were cask and bottle only for the first few years, and we persevered with the cask, and Bull and Castle was probably
a great support for
the first place.
Yeah,
was it possibly that we had the cask in?
Yeah.
So we persevered, and I mean, I believe when we started, the Bull and Castle was possibly the only place in Ireland that had a hand pump.
Yeah.
So we installed some hand pumps then around the place and that, and we kind of persevered. The challenge to it was more the management in the bars and stuff, so unless you had a great guy in a great pub, to take care of it and that kind of thing. So we started kegging in, I think, 2014 time, just to kind of we kind of gave in, I suppose, a little bit in that. It's like, okay, look, this is just easier. This works this way. Well, initially our kegs were keg conditioned as well, but then we did move to, so our kegs now are naturally force carbonated, so normal, whatever. So yeah, but initially, we were kind of being very, bottle and cask is the way to go, sort of thing. That's just what we liked, and I suppose what Cormac liked to brew, or what, it was kind of it was always the more traditional leaning, I suppose, that we had on it. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Much along the same lines as that, with a question from Kelvin earlier, who asked, do you think the switch from bottles to cans has made any impact on the taste of the beer?
So I suppose just to, I know I've kind of hopped over things and everything. I was very brief in the intro, but just to say, so the cans are can conditioned as well. So that's something that we were working on. So we were canning today. They're being canned flat. They're going into the warm room. They're carving up there. So we're using the same process. So that was sort of our challenge, like about going to cans and changing process and that kind of thing. So we are using the same process. I don't think so.
No, I'd say what would be interesting really is to see if the flavour profile changes over time.
Yeah.
The way flavours develop in the bottle. So I'm curious myself to see if that'll be the same case in the can.
Yeah, because obviously all the canned stock is quite new at the moment, so as in we don't have an aged can yet to that. Tom says like that would be the kind of interesting comparison as they get older, because they are sort of
always a work in progress.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, of course. And would the plan at the moment be to stick with both bottles and cans, or is there an eye to move into solely cans? Or
so no, the plan at the moment is trying to figure out how much we need in bottles, and you know, so we've good bottle stock, and we're just sort of seeing how it pans out. Will we end up doing less in bottle and that kind of thing? But I think we'll always be a bottle product. We'll always have a bottle product. I think we're, bottles have set heart a little bit maybe. And, I think especially the kind of hospitality restaurant side has always been a sort of a strong customer base of ours. So, I kind of just still see bottles having a place in restaurants and that kind of thing. So I don't believe so is the answer, but maybe we'll be proven wrong, and maybe we'll be like, okay, nobody wants bottles anymore. But I think there would always be a market for bottles, and I think we'll always kind of want to do bottles. So both go rest.
Absolutely, yeah. Just looking at the comments here, I can see one from.
I see things flashing. I can't read them quickly.
yeah, they're flying in quick and fast here. From City Tours, I'll try and pronounce it. Same high standards, only in a can. So well done, Claire and Tom. So
they're old friends.
Yeah.
one of our first groups to visit, I'd say.
Yeah, we have to keep the bottles in for the lads in water too.
Oh God, yeah.
Kind of bottle country down here.
Fair enough. Onto the cask, a lot of cask chat here, and Brendan was saying second on the cask from the Bull and Castle, though I usually went for the Mahon Falls when in season. Outstanding beer and his introduction to rye. So yeah, beautiful stuff.
We did the Mahon Falls actually in the first release of cans. We hadn't done Mahon Falls for Mahon Falls has been our spring seasonal since around 2014 time as well. So that was always our spring seasonal beer, and I see the large bottles coming there. Right? So that's on release in can at the moment, but actually we have no more stock of it. We did one batch, so if you see it, that's it's out there, but we don't have more to stock up with, I suppose is what I'm trying to say. So yeah, that was one of our initial cans as well, just being that was springtime and everything, and we thought it was time to bring it back. So yeah, it's been a favorite here as well for a good number of years. Yeah,
fantastic.
I think possibly my first rye beer as well, maybe.
There's a lot of cask chat going on there at the moment.
Catch up after.
Yeah, it has been. It comes up quite frequently in these sort of chats as well, and there seems to be a bit of a demand for a resurgence. Maybe a very small demand, but should there be some sort of revival in cask, would that be something you'd be looking to do again?
Absolutely. Well, as a punter, I personally love drinking cask, and I would love to see more of it. And that's as a punter, so, and obviously then as the brewery, we love doing cask. We really enjoy doing cask. So for both sides, yes, I would love to see more and more cask. I don't know. I mean, gosh, with everything going on at the moment, we're getting some kegs filled and all that, and we just said, look, we'll just park casks and we'll get reopened, and then we'll see. So hopefully I will be filling casks sooner rather than later. In the coming month or two, but yeah, I'd love to start getting more cask out there. Definitely.
Excellent. I think a lot of us would love to see that anyway. It'd be fantastic.
Yeah. We generally have a permanent cask line in Mary's Bar in Dungarvan. So if anybody's visiting Dungarvan this summer, they can call to Mary's. So yeah, we usually have something, and we can kind of, it could be different every week. It's sort of keep it interesting. We kind of change it over a lot and everything. So that's always good.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just saying, put Mary's on the list there. Absolutely, place to visit as soon as we can. Brilliant. Yeah. So Niamh was saying the Ardsala brie cheese is delicious with the blonde ale. So there's a nice pairing there. If you approve.
We forgot to bring cheese as well.
Yeah. And John is saying fantastic with some Maline's Dote washed rind cheese as well.
Yeah, actually, goat's cheeses and soft cheeses I think are really good generally with this. But also as a total different one, then actually smoked cheeses. Like I've kind of smoked. We've had smoked Knocknor and stuff, but this, is a totally different flavor profile. Works really well as well with it. But generally, those kind of softer cheeses I think go quite good with it.
Okay, amazing. And I suppose on that, Claire, as well, as an accredited beer sommelier yourself, we're going to... Oh, apologies, two. Oh, two accredited beer sommeliers.
We both are, actually.
Yeah, I totally saved myself there. We're going to be tasting quite a few beers over the next couple of days. So what sort of tips would you have for beer tasting in general?
I'll get some water. I'd say going by the box I received. We do a lot of, or have done, not for a while, obviously, food and beer pairing events, and it's always good fun. But I mean, something we always kind of open with, I suppose, is here's something I thought. If you totally disagree, that's great or that's grand, and we can, it's kind of often the discussing it and I think this is great. What do you think? Sort of element of it can be good. I think I love beer and cheese pairing, to be honest. The farmhouse cheeses and the Irish craft beer are just the real natural counterparts and everything. So we've done a lot going back over the years with the Irish cheeses. So cheese is always good in my book anyway. But yeah, it can be fun to play around. Like there's some very obviously isn't the word, but kind of classic pairings and things like that. Like your stouts and your chocolates and things like that. But it can be nice to kind of mix things up and just try. If you have. Well, I'm thinking of having this at my stout later. Try it with other things as well, and you hit upon something yourself, so that's always good too. But I mean, sorry, so we didn't bring cheese, but and like one of your classic ones is stout and blue cheese. So that's one to sort of maybe store for, have some blue cheese to hand if you're doing stout. I think we're adding stout tonight, even every, and that so you have your sort of classics, but then it's always good to play around. And then I mean. Sure, whatever kind of like, I mean, we love just having our little bits and having our nibbles and stuff, so like doing a raid on a whatever supermarket or centre or whatever is nearby and kind of getting your olives and your bits and bobs and everything. So it's whatever works for you, to be honest, which is not an answer at all, I know. I just realised. But but that's I think that's always the nicest bit of any pairing, even any tasting. I mean, even if it's a beer tasting, it's like, actually, no, I don't think that. And it's the discussion part of it, and it's maybe hitting upon something you mightn't have thought of, or somebody else saying, God, give this a go. What do you think of that? And Jeannie, I never would have put that with that, so just play around, isn't it?
Yeah, perfect. So there's guidelines there, but you can also break the guidelines easily.
Yeah. Easily.
Yeah. Sorry, Tom, were you going to say something there?
No.
Oh, okay. Okay, right. I don't know if you can see the comments coming in, or maybe have a catch up after we're finished chatting. Lovely stuff coming in there. Yeah. I'll ask people again, how they're finding the beer as we start to wrap up. I suppose I'll ask you, like the cans was obviously a big bit of news, kind of a big thing for yourselves. Is there more plans coming down the line in kind of short to medium term, or what's on the horizon? So our plan is to we're just sort of, I suppose, initially looking at our core range. We're going to, I think, month by month release a couple more in can. So our next releases are to be for June are the Greenway Pale Ale that we've done the last couple of years. It's kind of become our summer season of the last couple of years. So that's a really nice kind of fruity, hoppy pale ale, 4.5% that we do. The last year or two, it's kind of been fairly localized to down here, I suppose, but we will be, our wholesaler wants it, so we'll be getting out there this year. I mean, again, we were thinking, this would be great for around here during the summertime and all that, but they're looking for it often, so we'll be getting out wider. And we're also currently trialing and hoping to have out in June is our main sale, which is our alcohol free. So it's just one we kind of just think it might be interesting in a can, and we're kind of keen to. So that's in the warm room at the minute. We're testing that one out. So all going well there. We're hoping to get that into cans as well in kind of might be mid-June kind of release for that. Just as, again, kind of think it'd be a nice summary sort of one in the can. Yeah, no, so, absolutely. That'd be amazing. Yeah. Brilliant. Yeah. I'm thinking I think that was a perfect wrap-up point. I was going to say, massive thanks to you both for coming on. Like, just absolute stalwarts of the industry. You've been doing it for so long and producing consistently fantastic beer for so many years. The cans are brilliant to see as well. As I said, the branding is absolutely stunning, but more importantly, what's inside it's even better. So thank you so much. And we'll leave it at that. Thanks a million. Lovely words. Thanks everyone for the support. It means everything, Absolutely. So. Yeah.
Thank you.
And we will catch up on the chat and reply to anything that needs to be. I see the number rising there. It gets scary. But we'll have a look through them.
Yeah, definitely worth the catch up. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks again.
Thanks a million, Brian.
Okay, so let me see now. We are going to jump onto the Porterhouse and Renegade. So do we have Martin with us?
Yeah, I'm here, Brian. Yeah.
Hey, Martin, how are things?
Grand, yourself?
Yeah, good. Thanks. Now, all good. Good to see you.
Yeah, same to you.
Spot on. Okay, so I realize I need to grab my beer out of the fridge. It is about 1 yard away from me, so I don't have too far to go. While I'm doing that, Martin, obviously I'll ask everyone to pour their beers, get acquainted with it. But why don't you say, I suppose, introduce yourself and also the Porterhouse?
How's it going, folks? Yeah, Martin, one of the brewers for the Porterhouse. Started in 2017. Was there for 6 months on the old site, and then we moved up to the Deel Brewery in early 18, and I've been there ever since. So I've been designing the hop forward beers for the Porterhouse since then.
Okay, fantastic. So the Porterhouse itself, it's a brewery that needs very little to no introduction, but I'm going to ask you to introduce it anyway. You've been going for a long time now, absolute stalwarts, pillars of the beer industry in Ireland. So I suppose where did it start? How many years are you going now?
Yeah, since 1996 it's been going. Started off the brew pub in Temple Bar, then opened up Porterhouse Central, North, and Covent Garden, and also 2 pubs in New York.
Okay, brilliant. And okay, the beer itself, so Renegade. Am I right in saying this was released about a year ago? I think I remember seeing it. It was definitely last summer, was it?
Yeah, it was due to be released just before the pandemic hit. So then we held off for a while, and then finally just released our 3-can range. And then, yeah, basically this is the best seller so far out of the other 3 cans.
Okay, fantastic. As soon as I cracked it open and poured it there, I got a huge kind of juicy aroma coming out of it. The beer itself, the beer style, New England IPA, what is it, I guess? What do we have here?
It's East Coast style IPA. It's always usually very hazy. It's, my representation of one as a volume beer as well. So there's, you get a good mango and passion fruit off it, a bit of melon and a bit of blueberry. There's Amarillo, Mosaic, and Galaxy in it. We've an extended whirlpool at lower temperatures just to bring out more flavour and aroma, and then it's dry hops to 7.5 grams per litre of the same hops again.
Okay, lovely. You can see Neve there saying, yeah, wowzer, the aroma. As soon as you crack the can, it literally does jump out. It's fantastic, absolutely fantastic. I said that the beer style itself, so this would be, when we say New England style, we're talking kind of East Coast America, and then there's obviously the West Coast style. What would be the main difference between the two?
The East Coast is obviously a lot hazier, have lower carbonation and a softer mouthfeel. And then the West Coast would be like a bright beer, but also hoppy.
Okay, so kind of more upfront bitterness, kind of.
Be more in your face,
Yeah, good way of putting it. So Sean was asking there, are there any subtle differences between East Coast, New England, hazy or juicy IPAs, or are they kind of all one and the same?
Yeah, there is slight variations, but there's not much really, to be honest. You can just give anything a name these days and call it whatever you want if it's IPA.
Fair enough. Yeah, very, very true. Yeah, gas. So obviously, Porterhouse, you've been closed for quite a while. It's probably been it's been a very, very tricky time, very tough time. How have you adapted in terms of, obviously you're not brewing to go into keg anymore?
Yeah, well, pre-pandemic predominantly would have been 70% keg, 30% small pack. But then, yeah, totally flipped around. Everything was basically just small pack for 6 or 7 months, and then we were getting our international orders, well, Europe, South America, so on. Like, but now it's still predominantly just small pack, but it's slowly getting back to kegging a lot more beer as well. Like,
okay, nice. Just looking at the comments here, I'll ask people how they're finding it as they're tasting, but some of the ones, yeah, jumping in there. Paul and Kate are saying lovely hoppy fruity aroma, not too bitter, very well balanced. Niall is saying amazing flavors. I won't read the rest of his comments. It's going down very well, basically. Jason Kent is saying loving this, so well balanced. Yeah, absolutely beautiful beer. Lovely stuff. So with an eye on things reopening, then have you had to kind of shift your brewing patterns? Are you starting to look with one eye and going back into keg, or what's the plan at the moment?
Well, like, we have orders coming in. Our keg orders are slowly getting bigger and bigger, so we're still probably brewing, well, 5 days a week, basically 100 hect brews. So we'll always have something in tank ready to package, and we'll bottle or can first, and then we'll keg beer. So you could keg the end of a tank to make up an order. Like,
interesting. See, hopefully you'll be ramping up more and more now as things start to open, and say most people here can't wait to get back into the Porterhouse for a few pints.
Yeah.
The formation of many of our beer journeys for pretty much everyone here, I'd say. So jumping to comments here, yeah. So Martha's saying lovely full flavor. Ruben, I really like this beer. It was my favorite of the 3 pails when it launched. Neve saying smooth and soft, hints of passion fruit, multana and caramel on the finish, so delicious. And Chris was asking, so about the chocolate truffle stout that went down quite a storm at Easter time. It was absolutely gorgeous. So can you tell us about chocolate truffle stout? It's one of the lactose brewed beers that Liam at St. Mel's appreciates, which is very high praise.
Yeah, well, it was the first time it went into small pack. It was always just nitro and keg previous, so we didn't fully know what way it'd work out in the can. But then we added, obviously, the lactose into it to just give it that bit more body, and then we rejigged the recipe slightly as well. Like, but yeah, it turned out well, and everybody seemed to like it.
Yeah, that went down very well. I thought it was absolutely beautiful. So Richard was saying your cans are new to the Porterhouse too, actually. Were these the first canned beers, this range, that you produced?
No, we had done, I think, Yippee IPA in 330 ml cans, and below Session IPA in 330 ml cans. But then now we have our own canning line. We used to get craft canning in to do it, but now because we have our own canning line, we have the capacity to do a lot more and just play around with recipes and then just get new beer styles out there. Like,
okay, yeah, nice. Yeah, so yeah, lovely stuff coming in. There's more body in this beer than the ABV would suggest. Possibly the oats, really enjoyable beer. Going great with the Cashel blue cheese, apparently. There's a pairing for some people there. And John was asking, so did you have to adapt your brewing processes to cater for the dreaded oxidation when making a New England IPA?
No, not really. It was, well, the same process. We always will purge our tanks with CO2 down to it's usually like point, or say 30 parts per billion, which is 0.0003% oxygen. Like, so it's the same process for all the beers, not just this. Like,
and when you're brewing something like this, I think you touched on it before with kind of the West Coast, East Coast IPAs. When the hops are used, predominantly late hops in this one, is it?
Yeah, they'd be all just Whirlpool hops. We'll drop the temperature down to between 80 and 82.5. Then we'll Whirlpool for 10 to 15 minutes. And once we collect into the FE towards the end of fermentation, then we'll dry hop in the FE at, say, 21 degrees, and then hold it for a day, drop it to 2, and then keep it there for a week before we move into conditioning tank like a CT.
Okay, very good. Richard was asking, what's your favorite beer to brew and your favorite beer to drink?
I'd say, well, IPA is definitely like all the IPAs from the Porterhouse are all the ones that I've designed. Like, so I like just playing around with different types of hops and see what flavors you can get through. Like,
Okay, very good. Back to the chocolate truffle stout. Ruben was asking, when was lactose first used in it, or was this version the first one?
yeah, just only for the cans. It was never in the nitro keg versions. We were afraid if we done it just as a carbo in the can without lactose, it wouldn't have a full bodiness to it. Like,
Thomas has a comment here, which I will second, saying, "Bring back Hophead."
yeah, tell our salespeople that they hated it. That's why it's gone. Like, it's old school, but I'd say it will be back. Like those, it will be back eventually. It's malt forward, so times change. Like,
yeah, gorgeous beer though. And like you say, it's malt forward, but I remember drinking that and like feeling like my palate was being nuked with hops because it was just so much stronger than like anything else really. That sort of when I was in my formative
back
days.
in the day, it was mind blowing, but now like it's not much. Like,
yeah, yeah, we're getting arguments going on now saying effect Hop House, bring back TSB.
No, that was way before my time anyway.
Yeah, Hop head on cask. Yeah, well, it's all kicking off now. Brendan was asking, does TSB still exist in the London Porterhouse?
No, we don't. We stopped doing cask beer just pre-pandemic. Just the logistics of it, and it's more time consuming than it's worth. Like, I know the beer does be good, but you have to take it from a conditioning tank before you move it and carbonate it and everything else. Like, you basically have to cask it off the CT, put it into a fridge and let it do its thing until it carbs. Like,
okay, very good. I see a question there about around the clock, which I'll come to there in a second. But in terms in general, plans going forward, what's in the pipeline for the Porterhouse?
For the around the clock beer?
Oh, just in general. One of the questions is about asking, do you have more around the clock in barrels aging, or is that all of it gone?
No, I think there's like 25 casks at the moment. And then as we speak now, there's nobody in the brewery, but there is a around the clock going in the brew house. Like, we only mashed in this morning, so then we'll finish it off tomorrow afternoon.
Oh, really? Brewing right now? Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. You've just told people are just going to go leave and now try to get into the brewery. They know it's happening at the moment. Nice. Oh, that's amazing. So yeah, it's making a comeback, definitely. Yeah, and you've got the cask going. Happy days. Anything else? Any other plans in the pipeline?
Like, I have plenty of ideas, but then we usually have to run it through marketing and everything else first. So we never the brewery lads have loads of ideas, but we never know what will happen.
Okay, fair enough. Some of them might be watching you here tonight as well. Keeping tabs on you.
Won't say too much.
Neve said, just tried the Horgan's smoked Gouda with Renegade. Both flavors of cheese and beer exploded in my mouth. Amazing. So I'm assuming that's a good explosion. Dave said, "Oh, okay. So you've had some backup here. There is new barrel age coming with the twist. So okay, we'll just say ... for that.
Yeah,
leave that hanging." Tom said, "Is a gunman just off camera." Good, yeah. I'll say again, I suppose I'll ask people how it's going down. I can see from the comments it's going down pretty well. Really enjoyable beer. Super stuff, perfect for summer as well. Lovely kind of outdoor sunshine sipper beer. So congrats, I suppose, Martin. Fantastic brew. Really good one.
Cheers, Brian.
Yeah, no worries at all. Yeah, I think just looking at the clock now, we're moving on to 9. So it might be time to bring in the lads from Brew. Just again, Martin, thank you so much. Brewing some phenomenal stuff. You can have a look at the comments there afterwards. You'll see them coming in. A lot of love. So yeah, just want to say thanks a mil for coming on tonight and brewing some super beers.
No bother. Thanks a lot.
Cheers. Chat to you soon. Okay, so folks, now it is time to go to County Meath. Let me see if we can find James. Let me see. think James and Fran. Are you with us?
Yeah, how you doing?
Hello.
How's it going, lads? How are things?
Yeah, and you?
Yeah, good, thanks. Good to see you. Yeah, folks, now's your cue. If you haven't already, go grab your Blurry Furry version 2 out of the fridge, crack it open, get it into your glass, become acquainted with it. And as you're doing that, I'm going to ask James and Fran to, I suppose, say hello, introduce themselves, and tell us a bit about Brú.
I'll go first, will I?
Yeah.
So I suppose I started brewing with Carrick Brewing Company in 2015, and we were based out in Carrick and Dunchambeau and Leitrim. We had a lot of good quality beers there, and really enjoyed our time. But we had an opportunity to sort of expand into Brewhouse there last year, about a year ago. So we tried to. There's just an opportunity for us to scale really and get an additional pub, because we have a few pubs. So so we I think we took the best of both breweries. We took the Carrick experimental beer that Carrick had developed with Francesco's help since 2017. And we took that and took some of the strengths of Brú together, and took us a good while to get going, get the quality right as far as we were happy with. And then we're just about to launch our can range. We kind of there in February last year, pre-pandemic, and then the pandemic happened. So it just was sort of good timing really, because we hit the market running with all this canned beer, which we never done before. And it's really taken off really, because we've obviously with no opportunity to sell kegs. We've just been able to get the beer into people's hands, which has been really good. People get to taste it and maybe give us a second chance, I suppose, after maybe some previously bad experiences with Brú historically. So it's been really going really well. And what we've seen is we've seen this complete flip from, whereas we were 100% bottles, I suppose, of our packaged goods, and now it's 75% cans, 25% bottles. So we've seen this massive change in a year, which is amazing, really. And I think that's partly due to COVID and people going to the local off license and experimenting and trying new different things, which is great. It's been really good.
Yeah, amazing. Cheers, James. And Fran, how about yourself?
Yeah. Well, I'm Francesco. I'm the head brewer of Brú Brewery. I am in Ireland since 2017. As James was saying, but I am a brewer since 2015. So I started off when I was living in Amsterdam, and then I worked there for 6 months. Then I went back to Italy. I was brewer there for another 2 years, just before then when I met James, and then I landed in Leitrim in Ireland, and then I started off in Carrick Brewing Company in January 2017. And then I moved with like the whole vessel down to Trim in was it June 2019?
Yeah, June 2019. Yeah.
And so since then I'm there playing around with a 70 hack kit and a 15 hack kit, so that's quite fun. And yeah, we needed, as Jim was saying, we were needing some sort of a brand refreshing. We wanted to bring some things from Carrick, and we want to improve some things from Brú. Anyway, we wanted to just create a new, fresh, good start in Brú. And then obviously the pandemic arrived, and we were there with loads of ideas ready to go, cans ready to rock, and actually it went well, we have to say.
Yeah, so that's something interesting. It's probably not unusual, is that we had a merger per se. So we have a coming together of two brands. I suppose the Carrick brand has been kind of put on hold for now, but we've two brew houses. We've a 70 hec and a 15 hec, which enables us to kind of mass produce the sort of accessible beer that you see in the supermarkets on our core range, and then at the same time the really kind of experimental stuff, which is probably still safe, I suppose you'd say. Like, we don't do anything kind of particularly mad, but we've started to push the boat out a bit with with there's a few more beers coming down over the summer that might be a bit more outside our own comfort zone. But we've always been about accessibility, I suppose, and bringing the consumer along, I suppose, without kind of scaring people off. So we haven't really enamored ourselves to the kind of really hardcore East Coast any IPAs or West Coast IPAs. We don't do hazy beers either. So that's just not what we do. Just so. And then contrary to Rick earlier on, like lager for us is a big seller because we have the bars. So it's always been, and even with Carrick, because they've been connected to the bars, because we have an outlet for lager, we'd be back to 50% lager when the bars open up again, you know?
That's true.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Brilliant. I suppose the beer itself then, I can see it's going down very well. Lovely comments coming in. First of all, what is it? What's a Berliner Weiss? And then what are we drinking?
It's like something we are planning to do, say just once a year for summertime, just in time for summertime. So it was a beer that we launched last year, first time, and it's a Berliner Weiss. So basically, last year was fruited with blueberries. Instead, this year we wanted to add different. So we probably will change all the fruits like on a yearly basis. But what this beer is, we are trying to have a very easy, light, and sessionable Berliner Weiss with like the classic acidic base of a sour Berliner Weiss, by not doing a kettle sour. So we use lactic acid producing souring yeast in fermentation vessels. So it's a kind of it's slightly different than the common classical Berliner Weiss. So then we bring down the pH and we ferment the beer inside the fermentation vessel. So we bypass the lactobacillus side of it because all like the focus for us for this is to add the fruits just before packaging. Now for this one, for this year, we needed to do a bit of playing around the fruits because we slowly arranged the dosing of the fruits. Because last year, blueberries, they are acidic already by default. But this year, passion fruit and guava, they're quite sweet. Orange is quite kind of acidic. By adding slowly and understanding the dosage, we think we found a sweet spot for having a sour beer, but still with a fruity punch. So the purpose of the beer is to have a sessionable drink, hopefully in some sunny days coming soon.
Yeah,
that's the plan.
and the yeast, I suppose, is one of these new generation. I think it's sour power or sour hour, or what's it called again? Sorry, I can't remember.
The sour hour.
Yeah, sour hour.
Yeah.
So that's the yeast we put in, we pitch, and it just consumes some of the simple sugars and produces its own lactic acid. Doesn't ferment, doesn't create alcohol. And then once we get the right pH, we add our yeast, our normal yeast. It just gives us more control. We don't have to sour the mash. We don't have to do any of that complicated stuff, but just gives us really good control. And then we can add the fruit flavors, which I was just reading the comment there. So basically, we add the fruit just before the packaging. So the base beer in here is very plain. Is lager malt and some wheat malt. Very easy with a particularly built up water profile, strong in magnesium and in sodium. So after the fermentation, which takes place after the souring, we ferment the beer with a Weiss yeast at lower temperature because we don't want to bring, in this case, the bananas flavors out because we just don't think they kind of suits the purpose of the beer. And once the beer is fully fermented, then we bring it to the bright beer tank. We add our fruits and we go on with the packaging of the day after, basically. So we use purees and extract fresh from the bottles down in the bright beer tank in the cans. So we kind of really, I suppose my background is I'm a chemist. I'm primarily a process chemist. So kind of use as much science as we can. And I kind of maybe take a non-traditional kind of way and make, well, like with the sour hour yeast, and then with the fruits, we don't put in fruit. We don't chuck in opening tins of fruit. We take really high quality pasteurized puree from a supplier in the US. It's really, really fresh, and it's really, really stable as well. Yeah. So we don't get any secondary fermentation, and we get consistency, because our consumers don't really, or more mainstream, I suppose, they just wouldn't accept that kind of exploding can sort of, or kind of variation in quality, really, because we're in a lot of the multiples as well. So it's just, they don't really accept that kind of stuff. So we have to be really controlled, you know?
Yeah. You wouldn't be long on the shelf in the multiples if they started exploding now.
No, it's just maybe a bit more kind of industrial, I suppose, but that's just the way we kind of do it. So
yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. Well, non-exploding cans is a good thing in my books anyway. Huge amount of comments coming in here. A lot of love for the branding, the new brand, and a lot of love for the beer too, which is great to see. A question from Neve: why did you decide to use guava in the beer? Because it's probably more of a less common fruit, or people wouldn't be too familiar with it.
Yeah, no, I was the one. It's my fault. Because I love guava, but just because of a memory, like when I was on holidays down in Africa, I used to have this guava like kind of fruit juice in the morning, and I don't know, I just want to bring it back because of my memory addition. That's basically very easy.
Fair enough. Yeah. Comment from Brendan here saying, I love that you don't consider a passion fruit, orange, and guava Berliner Weiss to be a bit mad. Yes.
Yeah. Look, it's a bit like, as I said, we just had some fun with this beer. So, like last year was blueberries, and we had a great feedback from it. Yeah. Like this year, we just wanted to have a bit more of a sunny side.
Yeah.
Thinking.
I suppose we're kind of a bit conservative in a way. We've been very, obviously our bread and butter is mass produced. I suppose we're on a bigger scale, and then we trying to push the boat out a bit by kind of doing stuff like this. It's not particularly, we don't think it's mad. Like, we've a smoked beer coming up. We just done we did
a spoiler.
Oh, sorry, we did
you're gonna have to elaborate on that one.
Well, you can try and say, I can't say the word. What we do?
Look, like, first of all, I think me and James, when the 2021 started, we kind of had a discussion. I mean, we just wanted to go through a year in which, if not possible, we wanted to bring back some kind of old styles, or some sort of non-conventional anymore styles, if it makes sense. So we started off, we brought this Belgian triple, the Memory Lane, 2 months ago. Now next week we're gonna launch this very old Polish style beer, which is called Piwo Grodziskie, and it's a beer brewed with the 100% oak smoked wheat malt. It's a very light 3.8% ABV. It has this kind of very gentle smokiness coming through, which we know it's a challenge in Ireland, because we don't know if people will appreciate that, or just spit it down, probably. I don't know. But it's smoky, but not as maybe a Schlenkerla would be, like from Bamberg. So we wanted to kind of play this challenge and see what happens.
So I suppose we're kind of, in our own conservative way, we're kind of pushing the boat out a bit and not doing sort of, I don't know, donuts and beer and stuff, or crisps or whatever, or Weetabix or whatever, cornflakes. But
plus that's me as well, because I just love smoked beers. And since I'm in Ireland, I never had the chance of brewing them, because things and changes and blah, blah, blah. And so there was really me wanted to do something smoky.
So we're just wondering how much feedback we're going to get from the Polish community, because I keep on laughing with the guys saying this is going to be huge. It's going to be like turn into our biggest seller for the amount of Polish people living in Ireland, but they don't really believe me. But
well, like it's something so different as well. Like you could be right. It's it's not seen at all, and it might not just be the Polish community as well. I'd say a lot of the kind of the beer nerds will be all over it too. I think it's a great shout.
Yeah. By the way, the beer will be called Old Times, and it's going to be at Piwo Grodziskie. That's going to be next week. Then we have a few more things coming down the line for Christmas time, which...
Yeah, well, the Panda, we always had this tiramisu stout, so Panda Nero, and that's really gone well. We did a double one, 10%. That's really accentuated the flavors, and we're kind of going to take it a bit further with a Kvek, probably a
Kvike, we're trying,
at Christmas time. But so we're kind of pushing.
Then we'll have a Baltic port, and then possibly we're going to have another smoked beer for Christmas. So we have a few things down the line.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Are you going to brew double Panda with the Kvike yeast?
So this is another big spoiler. So so we did the Panda Nero, which is our core of the Panda Nero. Then we did the double Panda. Now we will do something different and bring it up even more. Trying to do this Kvike Imperial Stout plus another beer. So we're gonna try to have 4 different Panda beers at the end of the day. By Christmas time. So what we are working on it, plus 2 or 3 more winter beers coming as well before Christmas. So I gave you some hints, but not too many.
That sounds amazing. But like you get nice fruitiness from the Kvike, so you might get like a Christmas cake beer or something. I know that sounds deadly. Christmas pudding. Okay, right. So I suppose, like you touched on it earlier, James, the whole hospitality end of it. Obviously, you have your pubs, you brew a lot for that. Last year must have been tough, obviously. With
it is tough. It's very hard. Like we have a lot of staff who are, their careers are hospitality. They're barmen or front of house or chefs, and it's a very good career, and people had spent 15, 20 years in that career, and all of a sudden they were at home. We had to let them go, and it's very hard. Like, I don't know how many I think we've lost 1 or 2 people. They just couldn't survive for so long, and trying to get them back is going to be hard. But I think there's a lot of people itching to come back and try and get back out, and not necessarily about, it was never, particularly opening up at Christmas, we got a bit of slack for that as a bar industry, I suppose. But it was never really about that. I was trying to give people a bit of income prior to Christmas and try and give them a bit of a lift, really, and lift everyone else's spirits as well a bit. But obviously that didn't go too well in the end. But it's been tough. It's been tough for a lot of people, and I think it's going to change. It's going to accelerate the changes that probably were coming down the line anyway, particularly in rural Ireland as well, which is sort of sad. So we just have to see what happens when things open back up again, and it's going to take a good few months before we see what happens and what hospitality survives and what doesn't survive. So, but I suppose just try and encourage people to drink indie beer and try and support your local publican who does serve the local stuff. The indie stuff that it has such a disproportionate effect on the economy, because you're buying and support so many jobs, much more relative to the macro. So I suppose that's the purpose of Indie Beer Week, is to support everybody and support the local community as well. So
absolutely. And my day job, the office is in Stephen's Green, and Bar Rule would have been pretty much one of the staples to go to after work for a beer or two. So very much looking forward to seeing it back open as well.
Good stuff. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's been fantastic comments coming in here. Loads of love. Here, James from Claire and Tom there with your last comment there. Absolutely. Richard was asking, will all these new range of beers, the ones that you're talking about, will they be available on tap in the bars?
Possibly but if we're open by Christmas, we just don't know when we're going to be open. If there's inside dining, and possibly we'll have some of the kegs. It's been very difficult actually to try and manage, because there's going to be some outside dining, and then people obviously can't walk up to the taps and see the selection. So we got seriously kind of stung, I suppose, by Christmas because we kegged up, and then we've a warehouse full of beer that has to be disposed of because revenue haven't come out. But we had a lot of recalls, and we tried to support the local publicans as well around town and in Meath as well, just by uplifts and then giving them fresh beer at Christmas, and then I have to be pulled again because it didn't really sell. So we're being very careful this time around with what we're going to keg. But I'm hoping by September then we should be back into things and we'd have the full range. What we like to do is try and once we have beer in our bright big tank, we'll skim off a few kegs for the taps for the bars, you know. So that's what we usually do and see how it goes.
It's just very hard to forecast right now because we don't know what the volume will be, what the demand will be, and so we just don't want to run the risk again to have loads of kegs that then like maybe they don't sell like loads of it. So.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I'm just looking at the time, lads. I think we might be just up. Just from some final comments, I suppose. Yeah, super beer. I really I'd recommend going back looking at the comments that came in throughout for the beer, what's coming down the line, the branding, everything. So well worth checking out. And also just to wrap up, I believe Fran, massive congratulations are in order too.
Oh, cheers! Thank you.
On the new arrival. So
thank you very much.
No worries at all.
You got a dub, baby.
Yeah, I made a dub.
Brilliant. Thanks a million again, lads. Really appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
We'll chat soon.
Bye.
Cheers. Okay. Now time to go to. We just took a quick spin to Meath. We're going back to Dublin. I'm going to ask Des from Hope to come in. And let me see now. Are you there, Des?
Yeah.
Hello. How are you?
How are you, Brian?
How are you getting on?
I'm not sure if you're a cross between Gogglebox and Eamon Andrews, and that's me showing my age now. You're doing a great job, Brian.
Thanks very much. I have no idea what you just said, but I appreciate it. Right. It's time to grab Handsome Jack out of the fridge if you haven't done so. Crack it open, give it a pour, have a few sips, become acquainted with it. While you're doing that, I'm going to ask Des to introduce himself and introduce Hope as well.
Yeah, no problem at all. Yeah, and hello to everybody, and thanks a million for taking a bit of time out this evening, this balmy summer's evening. I have to say, it's a great way of spending a couple of hours now. Hope, 2014, myself and a couple of friends got this really perfect idea that you do get around your 50s to get involved in the beer business. And we learned our trade drinking under the stairs in Gibney's pub in Malahide, a local of ours, probably 40 years ago. And, didn't really do the home brewing bit, but loved beer. So when we found ourselves in 14 with this germ of an idea, what we did was went off, got a couple of beers made for ourselves, went to some festivals, really enjoyed that, and then decided, yep, perfect, let's get a brewery. So 2015, we basically found the premises we're in now, North County Dublin, Kilbarrack, and we went and found ourselves a brew house, Caspari, German make. 6 months later, it arrived. Took 10 weeks to commission. It's a 20 hectoliter system, a 2,000 liter system, 6 fermentation tanks we had at the time. Got our first beer out of it 2015 in June. So actually 16, I'm losing track of a year. That's what a pandemic does to you. 2016. So we've been brewing at that venue ever since. Myself, Wim de Jong, it's a Dutch name, but he was born here in the Rotunda in Dublin, and his wife, Jean Mahoney, sort of founded the Hope Beer, and we're still 110% involved today. There's 8 of us now employed, and through the last year and a half, as tough as it's been, and I echo what James said, we've managed to keep the 8 of us employed, keep the lights on, and stay busy, thanks to the retail trade. So we're sort of lucky that we were on sort of the north side of the city and happened to have some very strong retail accounts, independent accounts, some specialty shops, etc., that literally went through the roof and as I say, gave us enough space to be able to sort of keep the lights on, as I said. All our pub customers are a little bit of export and restaurants, but short. That said, I'll take the year that we had. It allowed us really sort of concentrate on the retail space, and we just moved into cans at that stage as well. Originally, we started with bottled beer, 33 CL, which is it's a hard sell in the retail. It didn't really work, but the 440 CL cans now, is probably most people attest to, is the thing in retail. And as I say, 95% of what we've done for the last year is that. We brew obviously on site. We have our own bottling line on site. We now have a canning system that we managed to get Santi to bring us. And we keg. So everything is done in-house by ourselves, and we distribute most stuff ourselves, albeit we've got a national distributor on now in the last couple of months, Northeast, which we're pleased about. So yeah, that's hope, if you like, for the last 5 years, and how it 5 years has come and gone. It feels like 55 years, but it's been great. So just before you jump into Handsome Jack, just very quickly on the beers that we brew, we have 5 core range beers, of which Handsome Jack is one, our IPA we talked about tonight. And we try to get about 4 limited edition single batch brews out a year, and then a couple of seasonals, top and tail the year. 1 or 2 small little bits in between them, because we have a small 200-litre pilot kit that we like playing with when we get a bit of time. That's hope.
Okay, amazing. Thanks, Des. Yeah, you said it's been 5 years. It feels like 55 years. I'd say probably at the same time, it probably feels like 5 months as well. I'd say it's been a blur. Absolutely,
yeah, a bit of a Groundhog Day. I did lose a year there somewhere. Every day was the same, but as I say, there was a lot of pain in this in this space now. Hospitality, you know, there's a lot of people out there that have struggled, you know, and we have to recover, and recover we will. But as I say, we'll take it all day long now. The retail has been fantastic for us. So if we can keep a little bit of that share going forward, and get the pubs open again, get people like James and his crew pouring again and staying open, you know, we can see it now with some of the export inquiries that Europe is opening up as well, and that's all good.
Excellent, brilliant to hear. So Handsome Jack, I can see him on a poster behind you. What do we have here?
I have him. It's like a teddy bear.
the beer itself, yeah. So what do we got? What are we tasting?
Handsome Jack was one of our originals. The first 3 beers we ever brewed was an IPA. Handsome Jack, he stayed with us now, so he's like one of my children. And it's what I'd call it. It's we try to be as traditional as we could be, West Coast style, uncomplicated. Key bit for me was balance, just trying to get that sort of bitterness in it, but have a nice sweet malty sort of body in it as well that will hold it. Now, when it started its life back in the day, we had it at 7.4%, and there was a little bit more booziness out of it. What you're drinking today now is 6.6%. It just seems to have found its level over the last couple of years. Makes it very drinkable, very easy. In fact, too easy, because we have some pub accounts that have this on draft, and they've developed a style of dance now, the Handsome Jack dance, because it goes down so well, and then as soon as somebody steps off the seat, tries to go to the bathroom, below the waist disappears, and there's this odd sort of akimbo that can go on between chair and bathroom. So it's it's lovely and smooth. Very pleased with the balance of it. Nice bitter finish to it. And an easy drink when the sun comes out with a bit of a barbecue. Perfect for a night like tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're blessed with it this evening. Yeah, like you touched on something I was going to bring up myself. Like obviously, we're not too far away from one another geographically. What I absolutely love seeing is this on tap in bars around the place, in local area. Like it's a big beer, like 6.6% as a core range on tap, and it's fantastic to see. And great to hear about the dance as well. It's actually probably like a pirate dance, is it? Trying to pirate one leg, trying to walk up.
It's another thing we love about you know, our branding and dear old Handsome Jack. It is my favorite of our labels and our imagery. I really do love it, and maybe we all, or some of us, have a soft spot for pirates and all of that carry on from when we were nippers. But you know, we like what we try to do with our labels. We try to get them to come out of local stories. Now, we're all North County Dublin people. We were born and bred here. We want to stay here. So we went digging in Fingal County Council for stories that were myth, legend, little bit of Peter Pan about them. And then out of those stories that interested us, we got the imagery and the labels. And this particular one is about, he was known as Jack the Bachelor. Now, I'm told he's from Skerries. I'm told his grave is somewhere between Skerries and Rush, albeit there's one or two from the north that are claiming him as well. But this lad, I think he was known as Jack Chris or Jack the Bachelor or Handsome Jack, was what I'd like to think of as a typical Irish fella. He had lovely sallow skin. He was over 6 foot tall back in the 1700s. And he had big green eyes in him now, just a bit like myself. And he stood out in the crowd, as they say. He wasn't what I'd call a typical Irish. So he was very attuned to the females. And he managed to work his piracy out of Skerries all the way through continental Europe and ended up down in Naples in Italy, and was found dead in some sort of a bodega or a hotel down there, and they couldn't figure out which one of his 4 wives killed him. So that sort of tall tale leads beautifully into what we like telling, stories about the beers that have some sort of grounding in North County Dublin. So that reflects all of the core range that we do, but this one in particular I'm very pleased with. Handsome Jack.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. The comments are fantastic here as well. Niamh was saying pine and resin flavors, aromas of hay, pine and passion fruit. Yeah, gorgeous.
Yeah.
Here's to Jack. Question from Mulla. What hops do you use in Handsome Jack? Because there's definitely something interesting going on there.
There is, yeah, and it's a lovely sort of complex, you know, as I say, we try to be traditional and straightforward with it, but there's 4 hops we use in it, a couple for really strong bittering. You know, with Magnum and Cascade do the heavy lifting on the bittering side of it. And then the interesting stuff then is we use Sriracha Ace, which is not that common in a lot of beers. It gives it that sort of lemongrassy sort of subtlety about it. You'll have to dig deep to find it now in the big malty body and the weight of the beer. And a bit of Citra then as well to give it that sort of freshness too, without being juicy. So there's 4 hops doing its work there. A lot of the Citron, the Simcoe or dry hop, Magnum, Cascade then are between the Whirlpool and the Boil, just to give it that bitterness. So that's where the level of complexity is going on in a smooth, drinkable beer. Hopefully you find 1 or 2 of those subtleties I'm talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see by the comments here. Lots of love for it. Lisa's saying, yeah, adore the local folklore on the cans, which is a fabulous touch. Yeah, it's really nice.
I have to find, he's buried somewhere, and with the day you'll see him now. I don't want to. I'll take a picture of the graveyard. I won't obviously do any sort of anything improper to anybody's resting place. But as I said, I'd love to know for sure if that actually is the case, if there's a grave around there. And some of the Skerries people tell me there is, but I've yet to find it, you know?
Yeah. Brendan was saying it was one of his regular early morning drinks in the Marquette bar in Dublin Airport. Will we see the cans there, or will it still be in the bottles?
Well, I'd love to tell you, a lot of people on this breweries, and you know, I really enjoyed the beers earlier on, will tell you how difficult it can be to get onto tap sometimes. And you know, persistency and ignorance sometimes can be a wonderful weapon, and that's what got us into that particular area. I'd love to think so. We were on talking to most of our on-trade customers over the last couple of weeks when we've got an opening date again at the 7th, and the great news for us and the confidence for us is most of them will be taking us back on again, albeit that I'm sure they're under pressure with big macro beers too. So yes, I'd love to think so, and just be careful of it early in the morning. Hopefully you're not driving a plane if you're on your way that early.
Sure, they practically fly themselves these days, don't they?
So I'm told. Well, actually, just on that beer, like it is, as much as I love that beer, it does scare a lot of publicans away because it's 6.6%, you know. They love it. They love the taste. But, you know, it's more sessionable, drinkable. You know, the publicans generally have been conditioned to about 4.5%. It's tricky for them to take on these big beers, albeit any Handsome Jack customer we've had on draft since we started has remained a Handsome Jack customer, which is good news, you know.
Yeah. Absolutely, happy days. Yeah, like I said, I love my eyes always light up whenever I see it in tap. It's fantastic. So we said with some comments going on with the cheese pairings as well. So yeah, if you got cheese going on, try it with brie. It works really, really well.
Good.
And yeah, I think where did I see it? Lee has one of the comments of the day, I think, saying it's like pouring in a can. So that's pretty good description, pretty good good feedback to hear.
Lee, I'm going to use that. You can't trademark, but I'm going to use that sometime. I love it.
Yeah. Put it on the side of the can.
Yeah.
The Marquette bar, was that, am I right in saying, was that the only place that got 50-litre kegs of Hop On?
No, we had others just before the plant. Hop On, our session IPA, was becoming quickly our biggest seller on draft. It was catching up with our pale ale. So any volume customers, we were slowly moving to 50-litre kegs. Now, our preference and majority of our draft beer does go into 30 litres because we like it to move quickly and stay as fresh as possible, etc. But a bit like James said as well, it'll be a while before we get back into 50s, I think, based on how slow the on-trade will start again and how we've been stung on a couple of lockdowns and disposing of beer, which just breaks your heart, So we'll get back there. I'm confident we'll get back to 50 litres again, which is a great sign in terms of the beer moving.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you said earlier, you had to do quite a large pivot during the year. Obviously, a lot of it went into small pack, going into cans and stuff like that. What's coming down the line next, I suppose? Are there plans in the pipeline for Hope?
Yes, on top of everything else that's just gone on, it's been a bit Groundhog Day, but the next couple of months is going to be the opposite to whatever Groundhog Day is, because we never really had an official opening, but we have our 5th brewing birthday coming up this June. So we've lots going to come out in June/July. And as I said, I'll just leave it as we've got a couple of birthday beers. They're going to be small batch beers. They're going to be done in our 200-litre kit. We are going to have an official birthday beer, which we voted on, you guys and lovers of Hope, through the social platforms. That beer's been brewed again. It's, I can say it. Can I say it? I can. Yeah, it's overnight oats. And somebody mentioned there we'd be using the Kvik yeast also. So that was the most popular. So, and we're going to have an event, something like this, to celebrate the birthday. We prefer to open the warehouse and the brewery and get everybody in, but that ain't going to happen. So plenty coming up in June. Plenty.
Okay, brilliant. And beyond that then, Richard has asked, do you have a tap room or plan to have a tap room open for visitors once this is all over? Yeah,
we have it. We've had it for a while. We ran out of money because we spent it all in the brewery. We put an extra 4 tanks, so we're up to 10 fermentation tanks now. We got the canning line in as well. So that bit is done, and we're just going to have to wait till things open up again. We have a tap room there. We have not done anything about the licensing of that under the new licensing criteria. That is a long-term plan. And we just can't wait to open the brewery and do tours again, get people in and finish up in the tap room where we can taste out whatever we're doing as soon as possible. I never thought I'd see the day or hear myself say this, that I miss festivals and we miss tours and we miss that personal interaction with people coming to see how we brew the beer, where we make it, and taste it out fresh as you can get. Then it's one of the things I took for granted as being a real bonus around this particular business. Very personal, very intimate, So, come by, keep an eye on the platforms. As soon as COVID will let us, we'll be back open, tap room included.
Okay, sure. Yeah, well, that's fantastic. I think we all can't wait to come visit anyway, and till everything starts to reopen and we get back going again. It's going to be huge pent-up demand, definitely. So question from Dave. Have you found that a lot of bars these days aren't keen on the 50-litre kegs? A fair whack of them seem to prefer 30 litres now, as it's easier for staff to move around, or so they say, something he's noticed over the last few years.
Yeah, as I say, it wasn't a logistics decision more than a rate of sale decision for us from between 30 and 50s. We do prefer 30s. I get you about the moving around bit as well. It's a bit like key kegs sometimes. We get beer in. Some people don't like maybe the safety element around it. I do remember when I was 21 working the bar, I could lift a 50-litre keg over my head and throw it up a hatch. Now I call me mate and a mate's mate to lift the thing into a van or something like that. So I get it. And it is a health and safety thing, but I'll be looking forward to skinning that problem when 50 litres are being demanded because the rate of sales are so good and, you know, the people are there and the beer is moving quick enough. But I'm very happy with 30 litres. I'm very happy moving them, happy the way it keeps the beer fresh. And yeah, I think it's a way of not scaring the on-trade off too quickly about craft beer, certainly the stronger stuff, you know. Or the different stuff.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, keeping an eye on the clock here, Des. I think that's about it. Thank you so much as always for jumping on for the chats, for the beers. Absolutely incredible stuff. Like, see, Handsome Jack it's going down extremely well. Lovely stuff. Great beer. I would I'd encourage you to have a look back to the comments here after we finish the chat. You see some lovely stuff in there. So yeah, we'll wrap it up. Thanks a mil, Des.
No problem. Thanks for everybody. Just stay friends with hope.
We will. We'll chat soon. Cheers, Des. Okay, now we're going over to our final brewery of the evening. We're going across to Mayo. We're going to say hello to Marcus. We're going to bring him in and we're going to open up Saying Out Stout. Let me see now where we'll have it here beside me. Hello, Marcus. Are you there?
Hello, how are we?
Good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good.
Marcus,
first beer of the day, so I'm happy.
We're sufficiently oiled. I think the last time you were on as well, Marcus, you were definitely towards the end too. So yeah, apologies.
Yeah, I was. Yeah.
Guys, are you in like a time warp or something in Mayo? It looks like it's still really bright outside.
It's the west. The sun sets.
Fair enough. Okay, so everyone, yeah, as I said, time to grab your Saying Out Stout, crack it open, pour it, become acquainted with it. While we're doing that, Marcus, why don't you say hello, introduce yourself, and introduce Real Deal as well, please.
Okay, where to start? I suppose it all, as with quite a few breweries, certainly people that I went on brewing courses with, we kind of emerged from the 2009-2010 recession, where the construction industry died. I mean, I met loads of engineers and construction guys that were looking into getting into brewing, and that's basically. That was me. I was working in the construction industry in the west of Ireland, and home brewing, and so we thought we'd give it a lash. Started brewing in late 2014, loved every minute of it. Absolutely loved every minute of it. But we've kind of year one, 75% of production was just palletized and shipped to Dublin. Now, 95% of what we brew is sold in Mayo, because of the way the market's moved. Basically, there were 20 microbreweries when we started in the country, and there's probably over 100 now, I guess.
Yeah. That's fantastic to hear, though. If said 95% of the beer is staying locally, for it locally, and it's kind of staying within the community. That's brilliant to have that local support behind you.
Yeah, and it's working really well. And as Des was saying, I was actually shocked last year at the level of support that we got from local retailers. It was just incredible, absolutely incredible. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Amazing, brilliant to hear. Okay, so folks, I'll ask you how you're getting on with your saying out stout. I can say it's going down phenomenally well. I forgot to give it a heads up earlier that I took mine out of the fridge about an hour ago. But that's down to personal preference, however you like to have your beer. While we're drinking it, Marcus, what is it? What are we tasting here?
So it's lots of dark malts. You should be getting chocolate. There's a lot of chocolate malt, lot of brown ale malt in there because I just love it. And yeah, so you know, you should be getting coffee and chocolate coming through. Bramling Cross. I don't know. Some people get it, some people don't. But you should get a hint of blackcurrant from the Bramling Cross hops. 4.8%, very sessionable. Yeah, played around. We even nitrogenized it on keg at one stage, but it didn't move, unfortunately. So it's small pack only, but I think it's taken to the can really well. It's this is the first canning run that we've done with it.
I have to say it's tasting fantastic and it's tasting like super fresh. Gorgeous stuff. Just on that, actually, Jason Kenter had this in the bottle. I think I prefer it in the can.
Great.
Yeah, going down very well. Lots of love for the beer itself. Paul and Kate saying love it, roasty and tasty.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd say roasty and toasty too. And the branding as well. The new branding is absolutely stunning on the cans.
Yeah, that's actually, it's Nathan Mountain in the background, just outside Crossmolina. Yeah, so quite pleased. We've just put the three core beers out in can at the moment: Jack the Lad and Irish Blonde and Saint Out Stout. But we'll probably roll more out as we move forward. But it's given us a boost. We started selling Beer Cloud were really good when the whole pandemic kicked off, but we only had bottled products and they were just getting so many breakages that I mean that was one of the main motivations towards canning, and it's worked really well, no doubt about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think we've all had the heartaches of bottles falling victim to the courier football or whatever you want to call it. But it's a shame. But no, fantastic. As I said, the beer is tasting absolutely brilliant. Ruben was saying, love the new branding, Marcus. It wouldn't be a beer festival without you. That's
again, as Des was saying, I'm just desperate to do a beer festival. It would be fabulous, but we'll see. We'll see when the next one is. I don't know whether we'll see one this year.
Yeah, unfortunately.
No.
Maybe now.
Yeah.
Maybe later in the year, Christmas time or something. But sure. Yeah, we'll see. Loads of love coming in here. There was comments there. Actually, I'd love to know what cheese is going well with this. So yeah, if you're having the cheese with this beer, let us know. A comment from Brendan there. He said, I was going to ask about who it's going to in the local area. The first time he ever had any Real Deal beer was in Beleek Castle way back when you just started. And the barman there was pushing it, which he thought was unusual because you don't really see local beers getting pushed too hard in places like that.
He was a Crossmolina man working the bar.
Wasn't you, was it, Marcus?
No. Yeah. I mean, again, in actual fact, they built like a a licensed cafe called Jack Fenn's right next to Balik Castle, and it's got a huge open air courtyard. So we during the staycations last summer, we sold mountains of kegs there. It was unbelievable. They were really, really good to us. Yeah, beautiful spot as well. But I can't afford to stay there.
Oh yeah, lovely stuff. So I suppose, like, obviously there was a big pivot this year had to be done in terms of the entire brewing industry. You said the local support has been brilliant, which is fantastic. Where are your main outlets there?
Unfortunately, they're barring the odd pub that has, I don't know whether anybody's, rural Ireland, but a lot of pubs have little they'll have a little room that's their off license for off sales, but other than that there are no standalone independent off licenses in Mayo. So basically we're selling through Londis, Centra, Super Value, you name it, any but yeah, mainly Super Values, actually, I would say. Westport, Castlebar, Kiltimar, Ballina. Yeah, been very, very good to us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Brilliant. And then I suppose I know it's an extremely difficult time to try and plan and see kind of going forward, but what's in the pipeline for Real Deel?
It's a good question. Yeah, the absolute reality is for the last 12 months, the Real Deel has been me and Paul working a day and a half a week. So planning, yeah, we've been doing some and we have been moving forward. But it's very hard to come up with anything new or even plan anything, because we don't really know what's around the next corner. The big question out west now is how many pubs, which pubs just aren't going to open at all, that will never reopen, because there will be a lot, unfortunately. So yeah, we've a brown ale coming out. We're still playing around with some whiskey barrel aged product with Connaught whiskey. But other than that, I really don't know. I would hope late summer, autumn, we would we'll be back on our feet completely, and hopefully we'll get the odd seasonal out. But other than that, yeah, it's just try and see what the pubs bring us. It was 65% of our business really when this all hit. So yeah, it's we need to just see how we emerge from it all, basically.
Yeah.
And the other thing that we kind of desperately need back where we are is, we need tourists. We need the French and German and American tourists back who walk into pubs and ask for local beer. And we're not going to see them this year.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's a shame. You mentioned brown ale there, and we can't go on any one of these calls without having the brown ale love and the brown ale resurgence going strong. I was gonna ask you, is Recon 2 making a comeback, or are you going kind of straight up brown ale, or what's the plan?
No, we're going to do it. We're going to effectively, I suppose, we're going to rebrand Recon 2. So Recon 3 will be called Admiral Brown whiskey barrel aged, but in parallel with that, we'll basically be putting the same beer out that hasn't been whiskey barrel aged, and it will just be called Admiral Brown Ale. Again, back to what Des was saying, local stories. Admiral Brown was born in Foxford, and he worked as I think he was in the American Navy for a while. He emigrated with his father, and I think about age 13, he woke up one morning and his father was dead. So he joined the American Navy. This happened in New York, and from there he evolved into a privateer, and worked around South America. But he formed the Argentinian Navy, and helped in the fight for Argentinian independence. The Argentinian Navy, up until COVID, used to send a ship over to Foxford. Guys had come and marched through Foxford every year on Admiral Brown's birthday. They're absolutely nuts about the guy.
That's gas. Absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're good. Tie in the local story.
Yeah,
fantastic.
Yeah, an absolute hero.
Yeah. Marcus, from previous chats, I know that you're fond of a cask ale too. We've had some chats about it here before. Would that be something that would be in the plans if there were, I suppose, if there was a sufficient demand for it? Would you be willing to go down the cask route?
I'd love to. Yeah, I mean, I know it's something that, well, in particular, the guys at Dungarvan are very passionate about. But it's finding the market. I mean, all we've ever done so far is beer festivals, and we've done pop-up cask nights in Ballina and Castlebar. But I mean, yeah, how far it could go, I really don't know. I think it'd be a long road before we find a pub that would put on a permanent cask tap in Mayo. I think it'd be a long way off, to be honest with you, which is a shame. But yeah, I'll again can't wait to start doing pop-up cask nights again. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah.
That'd be fantastic to see. I think we celebrated the St. Mel's birthday last Saturday.
Brilliant.
I think it was Richard on this call actually said it was like beer festivals might lend themselves really well to being able to have cask, just purely because the amount of volume you have to get through. So obviously there's the Franwell Cask Fest, but hopefully we'll see more of that sort of thing. Be amazing to see. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Just looking at the comments here, Justin saying Admiral Brown is now fighting for the revival of brown ales.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll have to get him to sign up to crack. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm looking at any final questions or comments for Marcus, guys, just before we start to wrap up and we open up for general chat and discussion. How big is a cask? Asked Jason and Kendra.
Okay, so a pin is approximately, which is the smallest type of cask that you can get, is actually just over 19 litres. So it's very, very small, relatively. And a firkin, which I guess most people in Ireland would use, would be twice the size of that. So about 38 litres. So not huge, but the problem with with a cask is, you tap it, it's all got to be gone within 2 to 3 days. Otherwise it just sours because it's open to oxygen. So yeah, it's got to move. Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah, I'm thinking, well, we're just coming bang on 10 o'clock now, so it might be time to wrap it up. I suppose that kind of concludes our whistle stop tour of the country. We've had 6 fantastic beers, 6 fantastic breweries tonight. Started off in Donegal, went down to Waterford, up to Dublin, quick round trip to Meath, back to Dublin, then over to Mayo. So it's fantastic to see the kind of the range and breadth of beer has been brewed in this country, different styles, and the absolute quality of them all. It's been stunning beers this evening, absolutely stunning. So well done to everyone involved, absolutely fantastic. Huge thank you to everyone, obviously, again, as I said before, for picking up a beer box or grabbing a ticket for this evening or whatever. Sport can't be overstated. It's so important. So massive thank you. And I'm hoping we'll see you tomorrow and on Saturday as well. We've got 2 more events. This is the first of 3. So we're getting the trilogy in. You can still pick up tickets as well if you want to grab some beers yourself and you don't have the beer box. The tickets are still available for Friday and Saturday. That's it from me, folks. We'll start to wrap up. I just want to say we're going to open up for general chat now. Sorry, but just want to say thanks again. Fantastic night, fantastic beers, and thanks to everyone.
Thanks for your support, everybody.